Hey guys.
Hey, you, everybody. Welcome to episode 30?
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's 30.
I hope so.
But today in this episode, I guess
Just kind of felt like it might be a good idea.
yeah, we were thinking about talking about why you feel awkward sometimes and in what different situations, and that uh, what was I going to say? It was going to be a
What
good.
about therapy?
Oh, welcome to What About Therapy. Anyways, being awkward can be a good thing,
It
and
can be.
a lot of us think it's a bad thing, but it's it's not. We can learn to step into our awkwardness and take advantage of it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I guess let's get into it. All right, everybody. Like you heard in the intro, we're talking about being awkward. If you couldn't tell.
Hopefully it felt a little bit awkward as you were listening to that.
But if you thought, hey, it's normal for them, I mean, hey, it probably is.
We're going to learn how that's okay.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why we came up with this, or how we came up with this idea,
Yeah, so we were
this episode.
we were at a wedding. It was about a month ago to the day, actually, when we were
Yeah, like a
recording
month
this.
ago. Yeah.
Me and Enoch were both groomsmen for a good friend of ours that we grew up with. We had a whole day full of wedding activities.
Wedding
And
stuff.
at the end of the
It's
night, we
great.
were at a reception with our wives. And we looked around and we were doing some people watching, as we always do, because, therapy students analyze everything and anyone. And at least I do. I know I do all the time.
I
And
do very often.
we were just looking around, and there was the awkward gyrating of dancing, if you want to call it dancing, just the little, like what Nick's doing, and the looking around, making
You look
sure
around after, kind of laughing, to see if other people are laughing with them or at them.
And it was really funny because I was doing that, and then we kind of sat down and talked about it, that everyone was doing that, and we thought it would be really funny if we break down the science of why humans feel awkward and why we're so obsessed with not feeling awkward. And so we did a lot of research, and we came up with a way different conclusion about awkwardness than we ever thought we would have. And so it's actually really exciting, and hopefully it changes your viewpoint about about awkwardness, and if you're an awkward person, how that's kind of an okay thing.
Yeah, super okay. I think we tend to look at, like Austin said, we tend to avoid being awkward or run away from being awkward. But as we've been researching this and learning more, you'll see that we need to kind of start to go to that awkwardness, go towards it instead of running away.
It's kind of a theme we've had in a lot of our episodes, that the things that we deem or label bad are typically a signal that we need to move towards those things because they're a huge part of who we are. And so we're gonna explore that today specifically with awkwardness. And so getting right into it, we're gonna break down the actual history of the word itself, which is kind of cool. From bustle.com, this article said that the word awkward itself has a strange history. It originally meant backhanded or back to front in Old Norse. So the Vikings felt super awkward apparently, and they needed a word for it.
Pillaging and,
All that stuff.
I bet that can get kind of awkward.
I'm sure it can be a little bit awkward when they're doing that, yeah. So the Vikings, super awkward, had to come up with a name for it. And then, but then the article goes on and says, but it has been used for people who are physically clumsy in English since the 1500s. So the feeling itself is likely extremely ancient. So it's not just a 21st century or 20th century problem. It's a thing that's been happening for a long time. People have felt really awkward. And so they continue on to describe the word as an awkward moment, according to psychologists, is one which we feel palpably that others may judge us or negatively exclude us. So I'm sure some of you can relate. I know I can, for sure.
Yeah, totally. And I think this just came to my mind, actually. You think back to the very beginning of man. If you are familiar with the Bible, you're familiar with the story of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were naked. The snake told them that they were naked, and they hid because I imagine they felt awkward.
Pretty embarrassed, pretty awkward.
Yeah. There you go. It's been here since the beginning, and they came up with the word.
Very
Awkward.
interesting. Awkward.
Yeah. So the article that is going to be kind of the basic base for this episode is from Psychology Today, by David Broucher.
Boucher, Bobby Boucher. Not by Bobby Boucher. No, it's David Broucher.
David Broucher. Anyways, I think it's Broucher.
That sounds
Sorry,
right.
David. But it's called Why Do I Feel So Awkward? It'll be down in the show notes if you want to go ahead and read the article yourself. But here at the beginning of the article, he says, almost every day I hear someone talk about a person or a moment that was so awkward, as if it were some great social crime. Now, like most people, I enjoy chatting with charming, socially poised individuals. They make us feel comfortable and good about ourselves. But I also know from my work as a therapist that when there is an awkward moment with the patient, we are entering into potentially life-changing territory. And that really took me by surprise right there and made me excited to keep on reading and understand why. He goes on to say, awkwardness can result from an unexpected conflict, an odd social encounter, and or an embarrassment. But if we stop for a minute and breathe, we might realize the discomfort comes from the unexpected sincerity of the moment. This shows that being awkward is not that bad. It can actually be a sign that you have some special personality traits. So, I doubt that you thought about that when you clicked on this episode.
Right? We definitely didn't.
Yeah, we definitely didn't. How it can really show special traits about yourself when you feel awkward. So we're going to talk about why.
Yeah, and the first thing the article says is like a positive aspect of awkwardness is that awkwardness might mean that we're very sincere. And so from another article related to this one on healthline.com by Crystal Ripple, I think is how you say it. She says that people who deal with social awkwardness may struggle with small talk, but they're often great at diving deep into topics they're passionate about. So if you feel that you're kind of awkward with social situations, this doesn't mean that you're broken or something's wrong with you or that you need to like fix that. It may just mean that you don't want to appear fake and that you want to be sincere and that there's certain things that you really care about. And so if it could just take the right topic in the right situation for you to not be awkward because you're really sincere about who you are and what you care about and you don't want to put on a mask. You want to always be looking for ways to show who you really are, not just some fake person who you aren't. You're just a genuine, sincere person. And so, I mean, that's an amazing thing for me. When I read that, I felt that and saw it in myself, that I'm not awkward because I'm just weird. I'm awkward because I'm sincere about how I feel about certain situations. Yeah, genuine. Yeah. And I would feel that, I would go as far to say that that's the case for a lot of people. That they're really just sincere individuals that don't want to appear fake in a situation, so it just kind of comes off as not knowing how to act because that's really what it is, and you don't want to come off as a weird, fake version of yourself.
Yeah, and that's called imposter syndrome. We can talk about that later, where you kind of put on that fake facade, the mask, and try and be a different person. And, maybe you won't feel awkward in those situations if you try and be fake, but you know that deep down, you're not being yourself. And being yourself might be a little awkward, especially if you've had imposter syndrome or have been, faking or having, putting a mask on for a long time. Being yourself can feel awkward. And that's okay, like we see here. When you feel awkward, just stop, breathe, and realize that that's okay, and that you're just showing your true colors, in a sense. So now the next one is the next positive aspect of being awkward, is awkwardness can mean others matter to us. And this is also from the article here from David Broucher. He says, when we start to form a relationship with other people, the birth of intimacy is often awkward. And I love that. Because when we start to reveal who we are layer by layer to the person we are getting to know and being intimate with, anyways, I ended that weird. Awkward. See? There you go.
This whole episode's awkward and it's awesome.
Anyways. So if we're being afraid of being awkward, we might keep ourselves distant and not really get into the nitty-gritty or get into the deeper layers where deep connection happens and where deep relationships form and are strengthened because we don't want to feel awkward. If there's something you've never really talked about with someone, like your spouse or whatever, and it feels awkward, that's okay. Lean into it. Keep going. because that means that you are just trying to be sincere, trying to be genuine, and it shows that that person you're talking with matters to you, and so you might not want to mess it up or whatever. But when you feel awkward, lean into that and realize that you just care about that person. That's okay, and that's something, if you're really genuine about it, that's something that the person you're talking with can feel, right? They know that you're being genuine, and it can really strengthen the relationship rather than do any harm to it. So.
Yeah, I think this is going to kind of go into the next little part we have, and it's a good example, but specifically with relationships, what I noticed was when I first met my wife and we were dating, it was extremely different from other relationships that I've had because I felt really awkward about opening up, because it was the first time in my life I felt like I could actually open up to someone and I didn't have to appear a certain way. And so even to this day, I feel like I'm kind of awkward when it comes to talking about the things of my soul that are really deep down, just because it's been the first time in my life that I can, maybe besides like my parents, but even then, I have a more intimate connection with my wife, obviously, for multitudes of different reasons, and so that leads to me to be way more open to her, and that comes off as extremely awkward sometimes. And when I'm talking to her about things that I'm really scared of or worried about, it comes out in like a weird fumble jumble of just weird noises sometimes, and she takes it and she fixes it because she's awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, just from this study that we did, I'm learning that is a sign that relationship really means something to me, and that it really means something to her as well, and that in the general sense, awkwardness in a relationship probably means that there's a spark there because you both care about each other and are peeling back the folds, or peeling back the layers of these shells that we put up to shield ourselves from hurt from other people, from pain coming from other people.
Yeah, and that's a normal thing. Okay, feeling awkward is totally normal, especially in social situations or when you're connecting with other people. That's totally normal, because I love the application there, how we kind of put up these layers. They're not just there most of the time. Like we have, our birth order, DNA, the way we're raised in our families, all of those add different layers to our human being. And when we peel back those layers and we start getting deeper and deeper, it starts to get really awkward and just feel weird. Like, I guess that's a good way to explain awkward for me anyways. I feel weird. Like, yeah, I don't know about this. I've never talked to really anyone about this. And I'm feeling a little awkward.
And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
But there's a really great part of the article that I talked about from Healthline by Crystal Raypole that I had mentioned earlier, that she mentions that the awkward feeling is like an internal warning system that you're in danger. And so our brains can kind of, connect the feeling of peeling back those layers with an actual feeling of physical danger. And that's why it comes off as so awkward. That's why we have these weird feelings of like pounding heart. She lists all these different symptoms that we might get, like nausea, hyperventilation, pounding heart, flushed face, muscle tension. And like, I think we all know what that feels like in an awkward moment to have that. And that is part of the stress response that comes from that internal warning system that's in the deep monkey parts of our brain, like from really
awkward
early
anxiety.
on. And so you connect that with the frontal cortex part of our brain, the newest part of the human brain, and then connect that with emotions. When you peel back those layers, the old ancient part of your brain is going to be like, we're in danger. All these defense mechanisms are coming down, and it just comes off in these weird, awkward moments where all these symptoms are part of. But it's a sign that you're really growing as a person, and you're peeling back those layers of vulnerability.
I love
which
that.
is a kind of a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
if you think about it.
So I'm sure a lot of you have heard, growth doesn't come in comfort. Like, growth is usually uncomfortable. And a lot of the times it's going to feel awkward or feel weird. And I think it's interesting that we tend to run away from those feelings.
Yeah.
And those are feelings of growth, of progress. And we need to go towards those situations.
A great man once told me there's no comfort in the growth zone, and there's no growth in the comfort zone. I live by that.
There you go. Quote that. Quote Austin Ivy quoting the man.
The man, the myth, the legend. Same as Brentley. Good man.
Brentley. He sounds like a great man.
Just the name says it all.
Yep. So here's a quick example of this that's given in the article by Why Do I Feel So Awkward? Not by, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Awkward. So he says, Liz is lonely for a relationship, but she routinely dismisses guys after the first date, especially if they are a little awkward. Liz is most comfortable with guys who are self-assured, fun, and flirtatious. The kind of guy who is comfortable chatting up women in bars. She is attracted to their poise, but their composure may come from knowing they are not really invested in knowing others. That they have no skin in the game. So that poise or that composure, being super confident, can come from like the imposter syndrome, what we just talked about. Not really knowing that you don't have any skin in the game, or you know that you're not really going to get to know this person very well. Maybe you're just trying to, if you're chatting with women in bars, maybe you're just trying to get a one-night stand.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to get to know that person for very long, or
there's no risk there. There's no investment.
Exactly. No risk. You don't have to peel back any layers, and you just go for it. But that is something later he talks about in the article. I don't have it here, but he talks about how being awkward, especially if you were on a date, actually I do have it here, so I'm going to keep that for that. But anyway, awkward.
This is all planned.
This is actually great because, we do our best to be genuine, and when we first started this journey of the podcast, we wanted it to be just raw and real, not super edited. Obviously, we tried to keep it, kind of pretty professional, like we tried to.
So it's easy to listen to.
Yeah, easy to listen to, not complicated all the time. But with hearing a whole bunch of ums and ahs and
likes.
Quiet likes, all that stuff, even though we do say those. But anyways, this is great. So we can actually be really awkward during this awkward episode.
We can all be awkward together because I'm an awkward person. And I'm stressed out every time we do a podcast because I don't want to appear awkward, but I'm going to take the advice of our own podcast and I'm going to lean into it. I'm just an awkward dude.
Darn right.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, so the third area is awkwardness can mean we have left our comfort zone. I think that's kind of a clear one for all of us. That's kind of the first thing I think of when we're awkward. It means we're doing something that we're not comfortable with or familiar with, and so we don't have any confidence with. And we tend to feel weird. We tend to feel, a little sheepish, inferior, and awkward.
Yeah, I guess we already talked about this a lot, like with that quote from that great dude that I knew. And we talked about it a lot with the last area of like a positive of positive aspects of awkwardism. But the feelings of awkwardness that we're so scared of often get in the way of our goals and our values, the thing that we care about most in life, and we miss a lot of great opportunities for growth because we can be so paralyzed by the fear of being awkward or feeling awkward because we don't want to appear a certain way. And that could be the imposter syndrome that we were talking about, where you don't want to, you're just so scared of showing who you really are and your real issues. And that's not always an easy thing to do, but it really truly does get in the way of our deepest values when we're afraid of feeling awkward.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to being awkward, most of the time, it is definitely, the risk is worth the reward. So maybe, so what? What if you do feel a little awkward? And maybe people do look at you and say, man, that guy's a little awkward. But because you did that, you took a huge step in your life in, maybe you have a value of connection and being more social, yet you do it and you kind of stumble and you make it a little awkward. Yet, because you took that step, when you do it again, you have more confidence. And you do it again, you have more confidence. And then at that point, you're living your values with confidence. And that first little step you took that might have been awkward was definitely worth the risk of, being, if you engaged in, mind reading. Those people thought I was an idiot. So what? Look at you now. You're living your goals, you're living by your values, and you'll be living a much happier life at that point. So take the risk because it's worth the reward.
Absolutely. And I think we caught up in our thoughts really easily. And if you follow us on Instagram, which I would highly recommend that all of you do,
We post very frequent.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and they're great. We put a lot of thought into it, just like with our podcast, and we posted a great quote by a man named Russ Harris this week, who's a writer of the book called The Happiness Trap. And he says in the book, I'm going to paraphrase the quote, he basically says that whether or not a thought is true or not is not very important. The real importance of a thought is whether or not it's helpful. Mm-hmm. And if it is, then lean into it, and if it's not, why bother with it? And so if you're feeling awkward in a situation, you're getting into the mind reading distortion that a lot of us do, a good majority of humans. It's so easy to do that because you're trying to figure out what other people are thinking, and we have that ability to try to imagine that we know how to. And so even if you are mind reading and thinking, man, this person must think I'm so dumb, even if that thought is true, that's not very helpful. And you can choose to, in that moment, not label that thought as good or bad, that they might think you're dumb. Instead, label it as helpful or not helpful. And if it's not helpful, turn towards something that is helpful, like your values. So they think I'm stupid. Therefore, what? What am I going to do about that? Well, what's more important to me is that I live my values and have a meaningful life based off of that. So I'm just going to live my life with me. Live that life anyways, and I'm going to bring these feelings of awkwardness with me because I'd rather live a life with my values than a life running from my values because I feel a little bit awkward every now and then.
Yeah, it's worth it. So step
Absolutely.
in, lean in, and we're going to talk about 3 tips real quick, or 4 tips.
4, yeah.
For managing these awkward feelings. And of our own, actually, so our own feelings and of others when other people are awkward.
Yeah.
So the first one is, these are like 4 different situations where we can feel awkward, is awkward conflict. And this also comes from the article from Psychology Today. So he says, we can consider that our opponent has the integrity to speak their mind. This is an admirable quality. Admirable quality.
Admirable. There we go. This is an admirable quality.
Admirable. That's cool. Good word. Even if it feels a little jarring at first.
Pretty respectable thing, yeah, to consider that if there is conflict in like a marriage or like at work, that person has the integrity to speak mainly to help you out or help a situation out. So
yeah, to speak their mind, like how things are, how things, kind of get right into the meat, no fluffy.
That's a rare personality trait, and so if someone does have that ability to speak their mind and it comes out a little bit awkward, I would appreciate it because it's going to drive positive action in your life and make positive change for the most part.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that, and then the second situation that we can try to help manage, so we can turn towards our values, is an awkward date. We've all had them. I know I've had them. But what we can do and to help manage that awkwardness is we can appreciate that the other person is probably being sincere and that they're trying to let us get to know them. It's also an invitation for us to let them get to know us. And so if you're on an awkward date, if you're in a situation in your life where you're dating and you're trying to meet new people and you're bound to run into awkward dates, probably with every person you date, even the person you end up marrying. I know I had my fair share of awkward dates with my wife, especially the first one. But as it says here, we can take that as an opportunity to appreciate the fact that they're also probably just as nervous as you are and really care about what the outcome of the date. And they really want to make it work, I guess. Like that's how I felt when I was on my dates with my wife and when I was awkward. Is because I really wanted to go well because I thought she was really pretty and I wanted to go well and I wanted our relationship to grow. And if the other person is just as awkward as you can safely assume they're in the same boat as you.
And so it grew.
Into a marriage. It was great.
See, I love this one. This is the one that I was almost mentioned not too long ago, a couple minutes ago. Mm-hmm. The example of Liz, who's lonely for relationships, who brushes off the guys that are awkward and goes for the guys that are really talkative and confident in who they are. And I mean, who knows if they really are. But in this situation, they're probably not. Because they have no skin in the game. They're not committed. Mm-hmm. But I just love this because when you feel awkward, especially on a date, you can think of the first 2 things we talked about. You probably feel awkward because you are being sincere, genuine, and you may have a little bit of fear along with that they might not like you for who you are, and that can bring some awkwardness. But that's a good thing because you know that you're doing the right thing and you're being yourself. And 2, you can think about how this person actually might be really important to you, And like Austin is saying, how you don't want to mess it up. You don't want to say the wrong thing, because who knows? This could be your future wife or whatever. We think about crazy things like that all the time on dates or whatever.
I think it very well could be, and you don't want to just
right
give it up, even and say that it's not, and you want to give every chance that it has and every chance that it could turn into. Yeah. So lean into it, see it as an admirable quality, because that's a beautiful thing that you're so invested in this opportunity that it comes off just so extremely awkward. Looking at it from that point of view, that's a really beautiful thing that humans do.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's fun. The third one is feeling awkward.
When you're feeling awkward, I think that's what it's trying to go for.
Yeah.
Like when we feel general feelings of awkwardness.
Yeah, when you're feeling awkward. I swear, we went over this before, but hey, it's just awkward.
It's coming off awkward, I guess. Yeah, it's funny how that happens.
So he says, if we avoid situations for fear of feeling awkward, we can remind ourselves this is a new experience. We might gain something by tolerating our discomfort. Who knows how we might grow from it? It doesn't kill us, it only makes us stronger. And like we were talking about earlier, the risk is worth the reward. Like, you're not going to die from it. I think a lot of the times when we feel like anxious or awkward or fear, our brain is saying, whoa, 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 turn on the brakes there, Betsy, and let's go the other way. Let's get out of here. We're going to die, and we got to stay alive. I got to live forever, man. And when that happens, we tend to kind of just, oh, okay, I'm going to run away because my brain thinks I'm going to die. We obviously don't think that, because that thought, I guess, from your brain comes out in awkwardness, anxiety, fear, because it's just trying to keep you alive, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. But learning to step into that discomfort and taking that risk and saying, this is a new experience, you don't know how you will grow from it. And especially if it's something that you value, it's definitely worth taking that risk.
Yeah, there's going to be something that you learn from it, and you have to get over the fact that your brain doesn't control you, you control your brain. We talked about this before in previous episodes, that your brain is just a tool. It's an organ just like any other bodily organ, and you have a fair amount of control over it. And you can say, thanks, brain. I'm going to feel awkward no matter what, but I really want to do this thing. Because like Enoch said, the most things to be learned are typically the things that are going to cause the most stress and the most anxiety and the most feelings of awkwardness. And so I always say, if you're feeling feelings of fear, awkwardness, or anxiety about something, you're bound to learn something, and it's gonna help you grow. That you're heading in the right direction when you're feeling a little bit of fear.
Yeah.
Because that's a sign that you're doing something that's gonna make you grow.
The pros outweigh the cons for sure.
Absolutely.
When it comes to this.
So the last thing, when it comes to fearing others will see us as awkward, and so this is what kind of I saw as awkward, like the whole situation of awkward. This is what I thought of when we started this episode. So it's a good way to end on it, I guess. But what can we do when we fear that others are going to see us as awkward? Well, it says right here from the article, if we avoid these situations, we limit ourselves to the familiar. Our world is that much smaller. And so when you only focus on things and you only allow yourself to live within your zone of comfort, your life is just going to be inside this little bubble that's this big. But if you allow and accept and welcome those awkward opportunities and awkward situations and scary situations, your world grows with every decision that pushes you and makes you feel awkward. And so, like it says, if we avoid these too much, our world's just going to be that smaller and that much, I'm going to say boring, because it can be boring to just limit yourself to what is familiar.
Yeah, or if you aren't yourself, you have imposter syndrome, you fake being what you think is the cool guy. Like, that's not you. That's not you. Yeah. That's not living, I want to say. And so when you go throughout this week, be awkward. Be you. And when you do feel awkward, don't run away from it. Lean into it and see where it takes you. And most of the time, your awkwardness is going to take you to exactly where you want to go, which is kind of funny that way. Mm-hmm. But it's true. And you'll grow from it. And who knows, you may meet your future wife or your future husband.
Or your future career or your favorite hobby. Like, you're going to find something that's of great reward if you really lean into your awkwardness and your anxiety. And we talk about this in multiple episodes, but you're going to find something you really care about when you lean into the monsters that you're most scared of.
So learn to love being awkward. Learn to love being yourself. And through that, you'll live a more fulfilling and happy life.
Amen. Thanks for listening, you guys. We appreciate all the listens, and so make sure if you're listening on Spotify, leave a review, leave a like if you're watching on YouTube. Check us out on our Instagram. We're trying to put more and more content on there, like on a semi-frequent basis as much as we can to have an uplifting thought or video every day. So we're going to put it out for you guys.
And we've said in the past, and I'll say it again, we're going to be doing some like giveaways and stuff. But I mean, who are we supposed to give away when there's no one commenting
Yep.
on our Instagram videos? I mean, we do have people commenting on our Instagram videos, but we don't know them as in like they're kind of just spam accounts.
We think they're bots.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's other people that are commenting on them
True.
that we know personally.
Actually.
And shout out to them.
But I mean, they may not be listening to this. They just follow us on Instagram. But anyway,
Either way.
even on Instagram, we'll have some giveaways and do all that. And so go ahead, leave a comment on whatever platform you're listening on. We are on virtually every podcasting platform.
I'm aware of.
And also on YouTube. And so go ahead and leave a comment, review on whatever you're listening to. If you want to watch YouTube, I know it can be hard to find us since we're kind of a smaller account right now. Go ahead to our Instagram account, and
The link is there.
the link is in the description there. So at What About Therapy on Instagram, you'll find us. You'll see our little logo. So
Thanks again for watching. We appreciate everyone that listens.
have a good week.
See you.
What about therapy? What about therapy? What about therapy? Yeah. What about therapy? What about therapy? What about therapy? Yeah. What about therapy? What about therapy? What about therapy? What about therapy? Yeah.